After the successful effort that Baby Keem had put into this album, a lot of people have enjoyed it, but there's been a lot of negative naysayers about this album also. There's a lot of people, such as Drake fans, who are trying to discredit Keem and his work by trying to compare it to an album that's not even out. A lot of people are trying to say that he was influenced by Iceman and the Iceman episodes. However, this album is non-existent. The album isn't even out. And to me, and I've been saying for this channel for a very long time, I don't even think that album exists, bro. By the time that Iceman comes out, it's going to be a whole bunch of throwaways, a whole bunch of tracks that Drake had worked on, didn't really have a concept until he came up with Iceman, and then stamps a label on it and then calls it an album. I don't think that it actually ever existed, and I think all the leaked tracks that we've been hearing are not even going to make the album at all. But with all this being said, they're comparing Casino to an album that is non-existent. And the fact that they're trying to say that Baby Keem had copied Drake because the Iceman episode is completely delusional. Completely delusional. But they have the nerve to try to say things like Baby Keem and PG Lang had straight up copied Drake's streaming concept. The culture, you can't fake influence. Now, this is very cringe to read because there was no way that he had copied him. There is no way that PG Lang had copied anybody. If anything, Drake has been copying PG Lang with his whole entire Iceman rollout. Everybody at the time, when they saw Iceman, all these episodes, everybody couldn't help but to say that Drake was trying to be in depth, just like Kendrick Lamar was. How to be like Kendrick for Dummies. Remember that. Everybody was watching this and couldn't help but to say, well, it looks like he's copying Kendrick. But now they're going to go around and say that PG Lang is copying Drake. Drake has been copying Kendrick during this whole entire Iceman rollout. So who's really copying who? I know this is just for engagement. I know people don't really believe what they're saying when they type it, because no way an actual human being would take this serious once they hear a project and compare it to Drake, bro. That is oblivious when Drake hasn't really put anything out. But they continue. You know, they say a lot of nonsense a majority of the time, and I think it's just really forced. I don't think they believe half the things that they tweet, half the things that they say, because there is no way that people could actually look at the similarities between Keem and his album rollout versus what Drake has been doing in his episodes. I mean, if you want to talk gambling, I guess that could be something. But at this point, Baby Keem is from Vegas. He is from the place where people gamble the most in America. So what are we even talking about? One of the things that they had said here was things like this from Keem's live stream are undeniably inspired by Drake's Iceman streams. It's not biased to point out literal fact. Now, they're trying to claim things as literal fact, but they have nothing to back up their claim, but just what they think by their own mind. They don't really have anything to go off of, but just things that they think in their head. And I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. Very delusional to think of something that nobody else is thinking and try to act or try to pass it as literal fact. That has to be the most ridiculous take that I've ever heard. So just because you see somebody that's gambling, you just automatically connect it to Drake. Well, I mean, I think that says a lot more negative about Drake than it says about Baby Keem. Again, Baby Keem is from Vegas. Casinos are in Vegas. This is the concept that he's talking about that revolves around his family life, his past life. I don't think things that he said on the album were tried to be or tried to copy Drake at all. I don't think that's the case at all. I think these are just poor things that people are trying to come up with to try to create a narrative on the internet to try to pin Drake and Keem into this weird dynamic where you think that he's copying him. That is nonsense, bro. Complete, utter nonsense. There's nothing more to say about that. Just because you see a slot machine and you think of Steak and you think of Drake does not mean that Keem is copying him. But they're trying to act like this whole rollout and the whole visuals of this rollout and this live streaming was all to copy Drake, which I don't see at all. But they continue to say things, right? They say, if you can't admit the stream's production quality, the way it opens, the way the scenes are shot throughout is clearly inspired by Drake's Iceman stream, then you are living in an alternate reality. They 100% took influence from Drake's team on this. That's not bias, it's just a fact. Now, the fact that they're trying to pass everything as a fact is the reason why this is so nonsense. It's the reason why this doesn't make sense at all. Somebody is just trying to come out here and try to make a false claim, trying to pass it as something believable when nobody could take this serious at all. In no way is he copying Drake's Iceman stream. In no way did anything that he do was inspired by Drake. Again, at the time when Iceman was coming out, a lot of people were saying that Drake was copying Kendrick because he was trying to be fake deep. No, nobody knows Drake as being deep. Nobody has ever considered rollouts of Drake's to be deep. And the people that watch Drake's Iceman episodes, the fans, his core fan base, all the media that is always on his side, they didn't even like it because they had to admit that's something that he doesn't do. But now all of a sudden, Baby Keem has a rollout, and you're going to try to say that he is copying Drake when you didn't even like what Drake put out in the first place because it's not originally him, because he's copying Kendrick Lamar. How do you make that make sense? If anything, Drake is a copy of a copy, and you're trying to say he's copying a copy of a copy. That don't make sense to me, bro. That seems like a lot of scrambling and scraping, bro. To be honest with you, I just don't see it. And then they tried to double down, right? They had an argument. Big shout outs to bro Delete It. They talked to Delete It. They tried to say like, oh, he probably copied Ye. He probably copied Ye. And then he tried to rebuttal and say, no, it's not Ye, it's Drake. He didn't copy Kanye, because they were saying that the whole dirt, on the ground was inspired by Kanye's performance when he did his live stream. So they were having a back and forth of Keem copying Ye or being inspired by Ye or being inspired by Drake. That was the whole conversation. And then the rebuttal was this: the stage design, the live stream album was Ye, no doubt. That's what they're agreeing on. And then he comes back and says, the live stream scenes where they even follow Keem with cameras, literally while his music is playing in the background, multiple scenes following the dude outside with the camera equals Drake, no doubt. So you mean to tell me in a documentary or a live stream, if somebody is following the person with the camera, they're automatically copying Drake? Well, newsflash here. Anybody that's recording a live stream, of course the cameraman is going to follow the person that's streaming. I don't think you have to copy anybody to understand that that's how a live stream works. The cameraman follows the guy on stream. How is that copying Drake? Well, I guess Kaisa not copied Drake. I guess Blackboy Max copied Drake. I guess all of these live streamers copied Drake. Newsflash, if anything, they did it first in Drake. The most nonsensical thing that I've ever read on planet Earth. So you mean to tell me that just because Drake gets followed with the camera, anybody else that does it is copying him? When in reality, the real thing is that people follow people with cameras when they do a live stream. That's everybody. That is everybody. This is how I know they're just making stuff up as they go along. This is how I know they just make stuff up as they go about their day. In no way do you really believe that Drake is the original creator of a cameraman following him while he's doing a live stream. Everybody does that, bro. What are you talking about? There is no substance. They're just trying to create an argument, and they're trying to engage with this Baby Keem album in a negative way because they don't want to admit that they enjoy the album more than they'll enjoy Iceman. And then when Iceman comes, if it ever comes, because I don't believe it's going to come out, this is the perfect way you do a rollout. You don't compare one rollout to another rollout when that album doesn't even exist. You're comparing two rollouts, right? Well, Drake's rollout for his album was supposed to be a long time ago. Drake's album was supposed to come out last year. And we're still talking about a rollout. We're still talking about Iceman episode 4. He's not even done with this rollout. You're comparing a rollout to a rollout that's not even finished yet. An album that doesn't even exist. That's not even finished yet. What are you talking about? You're comparing something that exists to something that's non-existent, to something that's not even done, to something that is unfinished. I think there's a lot of pleas being caught right now. I think there's a lot of excuses being made right now because their favorite artist hasn't put out anything. They're still working on their own rollout. So for you to compare someone who's actually finished a rollout in the matter of one day, because remember, he dropped the documentary and announced the tour and announced the album all in one day and released it by the end of the week. It goes to show you, bro, that there really isn't no comparison. Somebody gave you an announcement, gave you the rollout, and it came out. Someone gave you an announcement a year ago, gave you a rollout every 3 months, and is still in his rollout phase. The thing's not even done yet. I don't even know what we're talking about. We're comparing things that shouldn't even be compared. You're comparing a bike to a car. Like, it doesn't make sense. A unicycle to a motorcycle, like, it doesn't make sense, bro. But this is what people have been saying. And I think it's because they just don't want to accept the fact that Drake hasn't really given them what they wanted. They're not going to get what they want. And by the time that they get Iceman, that's going to be melted to the ground, melted to the floor. You tell me how you feel, bro. But I think that people are just copy please. People are just trying to be negative because they don't want to accept or be positive about this album. But y'all tell me how you feel about this and get back to me, man. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video, man. Peace. Keep it a legend.